Hey YouTube, thanks for checking in with me again. Still showing off the workshop my wife and I have been working on the last few years. I think where we left off was we had just finished demolition. So in this video, we'll take a look at the framing and also the rough plumbing. I think that'll round us out for a nice length of time, and then we'll pick up again in the next episode. Hope you enjoy it. So with the kind of the building envelope secured and water and mice and whatnot not coming in anymore, we figured we could start back up kind of with what the original owner had been working on, which is finishing out the inside, putting up some partition walls. Um, we were gonna have the bathroom as a separate room and then kind of divide the remaining space, kind of roughly two-thirds and one-third. The idea being that the two-thirds would have the garage door in it, and that would be a space for um, dustier, dirtier projects, things that would make a big mess. And then the smaller space would be for finer work, cleaner work, um, hanging out. That's the space with all the windows in it. Um, Thought we could put, a place for like a little fridge and microwave there if you wanted to have lunch while you were out there doing stuff. And then I'm into ham radio, and so I thought it'd be nice to have some radios out there and play a little radio maybe sometimes when I didn't feel like doing something else. So we got going on putting up some walls. This was kind of the biggest wall, is that main partition between the two sides of the building. Watched a lot of Larry Hahn videos and felt like I wished I'd have had him doing it rather than me, because he's a lot better at it, and I'm just figuring out what I'm doing as I go along. But we did get it figured out, and the walls stood up, and they were mostly plumb and mostly square, and well, the inspector couldn't push them over, so actually attaching them at the top and bottom seemed to have paid off, and we got that inspection done. That was the first one of many. Next big task we undertook was some of the rough plumbing. The drain lines were pretty much in because they were all under the pad, and so the original contractor had done that. But the vent pipe all needed to be done still. This was an area where I had to learn a lot. I'm not a plumber. Don't really even pretend to be one. Um, but watching a lot of videos and reading a couple of books, I was able to figure it out enough. Um, One of the strategies I tried to follow in doing the plumbing was to keep everything I could kind of inside the heated space. And so, for the vents, I didn't worry about that as much. It wasn't as big of a concern to me. But for the supply lines, I knew I wanted to keep them in the heated space. So I didn't really want to run them in exterior walls if I could help it, and I didn't want to run them through the attic. And so I knew I would end up with some soffits to run those through. And so that knowing that I would have soffits in certain areas made it easier to run the vents in a more direct way, knowing I could kind of like cut the corners and do some things like that. And it would still be behind a soffit when we were done. Cutting a hole in the roof was kind of white knuckle moment. It was a perfectly good roof till I cut a hole in it. Um, I we That was one of a handful of things we had a pro come out and do. Is after I put that vent pipe through the roof, we had a actual guy who knows roofs come out and put the what's it called? Is it a boot? Anyway, the thing that keeps water from just pouring down through the hole and then kind of fix the shingles up around where it was. I think he ended up putting a few new ones up and just wanted to be sure that that was all done right so it wouldn't leak. And I didn't really know how to do it, um, so we had him do it. Here's a view of the bathroom, looking in from the door. We put a closet in there too for the pressure tank and stuff. I didn't want it sitting in the garage where it'd be in the way later. I figured there in the bathroom was a nice space because we weren't going to put the laundry in like I think the previous owner had planned. So we had a little room there across from the shower. And then in the garage area, put another little closet for the heating equipment for the in-floor heat. I didn't run it all the way up to the ceiling. I thought they're 10-foot ceilings, and I figured 8 foot in the closet was fine. And then maybe the space above would make a nice storage space later. Oh man, yeah. So this was we figured a good time to put these baffles in because we were going to blow insulation in the attic, and that ended up being a big project. The blowing the insulation and the baffles were long work, but I think not super difficult work. Easy for me to say. My wife put them in. There's yeah, cutting a hole in the roof. Thankfully, it was in the right spot. And that's where all the vent pipes come together. I didn't want to put more holes in the roof than I had to, so I took them all out in one spot. So with the vents done, we got into the supply plumbing, and we used PEX. Seems like that's the most economical option right now, and a lot of folks are using it. Pretty good information out there and support, and a good selection of fittings and parts at the store. So, and we thought for some of the um, where we wanted to run it and how we wanted to route it, it would be a good fit. And then it's not freeze proof, but it is perhaps more forgiving of getting cold than other plumbing styles. And so we figured that might be good too, because it wasn't clear to us and really still isn't now. I think we're going to heat the space all winter, but in the future we may choose not to. And of course, I'd want to drain all of the lines, but if you were to fail to, or if the heat were to go out in the winter or something, a little forgiveness would be nice. Interestingly, last winter I put a temperature logger in there after the place had been insulated, but we hadn't put the heat in yet. And the low temperature in the middle of the building, not at the edge, but in the middle, was 32 degrees exactly. I don't think it ever did freeze last winter, but I believe the winter before it did, before we had all of the insulation in. Um, I think it did freeze in there. So, and I would expect that it may again in the future. But it seems to be kind of, it may or it may not, depending on the weather and things. So with the PEX, seems like the common way to do it is to have a home run from each fixture, and that's what we did here. Um, the the system really seems to lend itself to that. As I mentioned, I wanted to keep all the supply lines inside of the heated space, and so these run in an interior wall where they can, and then where they can't, um, I kept them not up in the attic, but down in the heated space, and that'll be inside of a soffit later. Which, with 10-foot ceilings, having the soffits in the bathroom, maybe we could have just brought the whole ceiling down in there, and it would have made sense. I don't know, um, but it kind of helped. Um, I hoped it would help define the space a little better, and I think in the end it did. What are we doing here? Oh, I think we were just I we so let me try again. The well is on the south end of the building, and the bathroom's on the north end of the building. And so where the um, well line comes into the building is up through the slab, kind of in the middle of the south wall of the building. And so I took it up the inside of that wall, like the interior side, not within the wall, but actually inside. Ended up boxing it in later to protect it. And then across the ceiling, like I said, I didn't really want to run it through the attic. So I just ran it across the ceiling and then boxed that in later and ended up making it, look like it was meant to be there, I guess. And brought it into the bathroom here. So I think that what this is a picture of is the first time that we um, turned the well pump on after doing the supply lines to see if they would hold pressure if we'd have water spraying all over. They held pressure, so that was nice. Here's how the manifolds came out. Even though this is in a closed up wall, I labeled everything just in case somebody has to get in there later. They'll maybe have some nice words to say about me. Oh, this was kind of an unusual feature. Is I had planned to use like these, smart switches here and there in the building where you can control them from your phone or put them on a schedule or whatever. And as I was looking at those, I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice to be able to disable the well pump when we weren't there to have a switch to turn that off? And wouldn't it be even better if you wouldn't get 10 miles up the road and say, oh, geez, did I turn that off? But that you could do it from your phone over the internet. And I did find one product that um, was meant for that purpose, and I think it hooked into the X10 or whatever, kind of that older home automation type network. And but the reviews on it that I found, some folks were complaining theirs had caught on fire. And looking at the design of it, I just didn't love it. It seemed to me like they were using maybe a smaller relay than I would for controlling a big motor load like that, something that was inductive. So I got a contactor instead and set it up so that a smart switch would enable the pressure switch, and the pressure switch then would activate the contactor, and the contactor would start and stop the pump. And so that's what that big box is for. Should say where on the pressure switch contacts too, but I don't know if normally the contacts are normally the wet side of that wears out first. I think we just got some more pictures of the supply lines here. So that's probably enough for now. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. And if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, kind or unkind words, prefer the kind words, put them down in the comments. And if this is the kind of thing you're into, please hit the subscribe button. We'll have several more parts to this project. And also, right now, so these videos I've been doing are slideshows because I didn't really have the capacity to make good videos as we were going along and just figuring out how to do this project. But I'm working on kind of a cherry on top for this workshop where we're going to put up an antenna tower and I think a tri-band beam, and we'll see what else. So we'll be able to play some ham radio, and that I am taking some videos of. Um, and so once we get done talking about how we built the workshop, we'll do a video or two about how we put an antenna up for it. So hope you stick around for that. Like I said, hit the subscribe button if this is the kind of thing you're into, and you got to ring the bell if you want to get notifications, I guess. Till then.